Welcome to Project Hardway. In today's video, we'll be starting on the last of the upgrades that I'm going to be making to my 1994 Chevy S10, little green here, and that's going to be the first thing that I should have done to it, and it makes every car look good no matter what it is. We're going to bring it down to earth a little bit. Let's get started. Now this little truck is almost 30 years old. It's got 210,000 miles on it, I think. It's 4-cylinder, 5-speed. It's no powerhouse, all right? It ain't a stump puller by any means. But anytime that you start making suspension upgrades and changes to the way things work here, it's going to have an effect on the way things are here. So even if your car is slow, it can still be a lot of fun on twisty back roads, which are everywhere around us. So we're going to take this thing out, see where it stands now. We're going to find our closest closed course, professional driver, do not try at home. And then we're going to see what our baseline is. We're going to get an A test. And then when we're all said and done, we'll go back to it and get a B test. Now them guys that do them track days, they're real big on air pressure in the tires. Apparently it's important. So before we go, we'll take a good look at it and see where we're at. They all got air in them. My foot seemed to bounce off of them the same on every tire, so I'm going to mount up a couple of cameras and we're going to take a little road trip. All right, we're just about where we're going. Tires that are currently on this thing are tires just in the name, for the fact that they are made of rubber and hold air. They're 10 years old. So let's see what these old tires and this soft, squishy suspension will do on this dusty concrete company road. I mean, closed course test track. I think right here is good. 3, 2, 1, go. I think I broke everything. Oh my goodness. Oh. I think there was a guy outside up here earlier. Not good. Not good. Oh my God, this thing is so slow. Yeah, it's still completely all over the place. Dusty road makes it easier for that rear end to step out. Oh, what is that? Oh, we're sliding. Oh gosh. Oh God. Still sliding. And time. Oh. I didn't beat on it too hard coming up to one of those corners because there's a guy outside and I don't know. My conscience. But we went through there in 1 minute and 33 seconds. Could I have gone harder than that? Probably. This road is full of tight little turns. Some of them are blind, like you come over the top of that hill and here you are, and now it's real tight. Well, admittedly that didn't go the way I was hoping it would, but this truck, I mean, it's not fast. And being quicker around a corner plays second fiddle to what's really important, and that's this thing being low and looking good. But that being said, I did go out under cover of darkness with a lot less human activity in the area, and I laid down a time of 1:28, cutting 5 seconds off that original time. I probably could have gone a little bit faster, but it's a sketchy road. I'd rather not wreck the truck for something that's not that important. So we're going to start by lowering the back of the vehicle first. Usually with every S10 I've gotten before, I immediately, the day I get it, throw my 2-inch drop spindles on the front, and get either a set of 2 or 3-inch lowering blocks for the back, call it a day. But this time, I want to go lower, much lower. I don't want to be, you know, sitting regular family sedan height. I want to be low. So to start things off, I've got a set of these drop leaves from Summit Racing. They were the absolute cheapest ones I could buy. They're supposed to be a 3-inch drop, but being the cheapest ones that are available, who knows, in 6 months, that means that, you know, they could still be a 3-inch drop, or they could be a 5-inch drop, or they could snap when I hit the bridge down the road from my house. Won't know till we find out. So first thing I'm going to do, we're going to lift the back of the truck up, put a set of jack stands under the frame rails, then we'll put a set of jack stands under the axle, and then we'll put a third jack stand under the pinion so that the rear end doesn't rotate forward, pull the drive shaft out when we get it loose from the springs. Then we'll drop those springs down out of there. Hey there. So thought I'd hit record, didn't. So the first thing I've done is I've already knocked out the shock absorbers, got these loose from the spring pads here. Now I'm gonna take the shackle bolts out for the rear of the leaf, let the leaf hang down, then we can knock out the U-bolts that hold the rear end to the leaf after this has come down and set its weight on these jack stands. Then we'll go up here to the front and get the other bolts out for the front of the leaf. Got these big old 21mm hardware back here. So far the bolt's not spinning. It's only a little warm. Well, as you would and should expect, all that hardware is very crusty. So I've taken the liberty of hitting it and all the rest of the hardware with some PB Blaster. Now I'm gonna see if I can get this thing to break free a little bit by twisting the bolt. Well, it is seized. That's crazy. There's no nut on that bolt. Wow, look at that. That thing is in there. Don't mind me. Just gonna see how much stuff I can break. That wrench is bending. Incredible. Got pressure on it. Hit it with some vibration. Wow. Ow. Oh, moly. Heat and vibration. Come on, dagnabbit. We'll end up with a wide body over here in a minute. Hand formed. That thing won't budge. It's still hot. Wonder if I can get the shackle bolt out. All right, well, I can get the shackle bolt to move, so let's see if we can just take that one out for now. Worry about getting the shackle off of it once we get it out of the truck. If we get it out of the truck, you know, assuming that the front isn't as completely seized as the rear. Well, don't mind this next part. Just a 1/4-inch drive Milwaukee with a 3/8 adapter on a 1/2-inch adapter to a 21mm. Here we go. Oh, didn't have the doggone wrench on there. Ow! Like, ow! I should have just got a freaking ratchet. There we go. Excuse you, come out of there, thank you. Let's see if that'll smack out of there. You don't need that, do you? Yeah, that'll work. You know, until it doesn't. All right, come on, we are almost out. Oh gosh. You guys all right? Yep. That's one end of that leaf loose. No, Tuesday isn't just for tacos, you know. Try some tilapia. Holy cow. Even with the safety glasses, I don't feel safe. Oh, I need a face shield. Whew. Like Bun B, baby. Just keep on pushing. Whew. That's through. It ain't in there no more. Well, now that the leaves are free in the rear at least, gonna get these U-bolts off. They hold the shock pad to the spring and the axle to the spring, clamps it all together. I believe these are 19 millimeters. No, 21. So, I'm gonna try to knock these loose with my breaker bar, and then once they get loose, hopefully, they aren't so rough that I can't get them off with the impact. Oh yeah, there we go. Did it break? The wasps that live on these frame rails are not going to be happy about that. Oh gosh. Try not to catch a leaf spring in the face here. And there we go. That is a leaf down with just one connection point and U-bolt. See? Shaped like a U. Well, both of the leaves are free from the axle. Now I just got to get those front mounts out. Are you shitting me? I think I've read about this before. So on the driver's side, I got pretty fortunate. The nut came out no issue, but I've seen this before. The bolt runs into the fuel tank. So that's a problem. And on this side, just as see as the rear, I'm gonna have to cut it off. Doggone it. Alright, couldn't quite find what I was looking for in hardware at the local hardware stores, so I jumped on the old internet. A couple of days later, got some new bolts here to put the leaves back in. These are 10.9 grade, M14 by 2.0, and I believe I got the 120 millimeters. The bolts that come on these are 114 millimeters long. As long as I can find was a 110. I'd rather be a little bit longer than a little bit short when it comes to the suspension stuff. Definitely need to get the right grade bolt. Don't want to have things falling apart on things that hold everything together and keep the truck, you know, in one piece. As far as the bolts that were holding the front of the leaf springs onto the truck up here where we're standing at now, the driver's side was bumping into the gas tank. Even though it was loose, I could have slid it out. It was hitting the gas tank. Couldn't quite get it all the way out. This side was seized up just like a couple of the other bolts, so I cut them both off. Might as well. So we put this one in on that side instead of it going from the inside of the truck towards the outside of the truck. I'm going to put it this way so that I don't have to worry about loosening the fuel tank. So now we're about ready to put these leaves in, show you the setup on what we got and what we got to do to get them ready to go in the truck. So for starters, I've got a comparison here. Got my driver's side leaf spring from the factory. You see it there. Here is our Summit Racing leaf spring. This is made in India, so if that's where you prefer for your car parts to be made, you're in luck. You can see the difference in the two. This has got one extra leaf in it, and the arc is much more extreme, which is what makes the, the truck sit up off the axle higher. This is gonna suck it in closer, and we got a little block plate here as well that kind of makes it the axle sit up off the top of the spring here. There is a long side and a short side to this bottom leaf here. The long side goes to the rear, I think. So we're going to get that all in place. Depending on who you talk to and where you look at, you are or are not supposed to grease the bolts and the bearings and the bush. Okay, well, whatever. I'm still going to put some anti-seize on those bolts just in case I ever take these parts off to steal them for another truck one day. Now, one last thing to do before I get in there and start putting those new springs in place is I want to go ahead and take the old shock absorbers off, because those things are not staying on the truck. Instead, I've done something I've never done before with one of these trucks. I bought a brand new set, I'm gonna hold that right, a brand new set of Beltec drop shocks. Where'd my scruff go? Oh, look. A box with more boxes. Ooh, those are sweet. Take a look at these shocks. These things are cooked. I'm not too sure about the survival rate of that hardware. We'll see when I go to take it off. Check this out. That thing just compresses right in there and stays. It should at least come back out. No, it's just there. They are toast. Oof. Shock hardware, 13 millimeter. Oh my God, I'm gonna get covered in rust. There's one. Ooh, it doesn't break. There you go. And there's our new Nitro 2 drop shocks hanging loose in place. Right now they are just hanging loose. You don't want to tighten those things down all the way just yet until you've got everything put back together, so you make sure everything lines up in the proper harmony. These green straps, leave those on there too. Those are put there to keep the shock compressed so that hopefully you don't have to fight too much with it while you're installing it. Because if you cut this strap and you let it extend, brand new shock full of gas and fluid and stuff, it's not going to want to compress too easily while you're trying to fight this back up on the stud on the leaf pad. Speaking of leaves, let's go get them in place. So for this leaf installation, we're going to do reverse operation of how we got it all apart. Starting up here, hanging it up in the front. And remember, this bolt right here with the fuel tank was originally brought in from the inside of the truck towards the outside. That makes it interfere with the gas tank. So we're going to put this one in this way. I talked about putting anti-seize on these bolts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this bad girl up, get her lined up. I'm going to stick the threads in first, because I don't want anti-seize on the threads. Not on these. I want these bad boys to get tight. What I don't want is the damn thing to get seized inside that shaft and the bushing. So now that the threads are out of the way, put just a little bit of this stuff on the shaft of the bolt. That way if it ever needs to come apart, I don't have to cut my hardware up again, hopefully. Slide that in there. Big washer, big nut. And for the time being, that's all we're going to do. We don't want to tighten this down just yet, because if we tighten this down on this bushing with the weight of the vehicle off of the spring, it puts our bushing into a situation where it binds up, and that will deteriorate the life of the bushing. So what we've got to do is put everything together, have it together loose, set the vehicle down off the frame rails, get these jack stands right here out of the way, leave the jack stands under the axle, let the weight settle on the axle, then we'll come back and tighten all this stuff up. All right, back here, pick it up. Odds are I'm not going to be able to get it to the shackle with where the rear end is currently sitting, because the rear end is currently sitting where it was at with the factory spring. See? Ugh. So now we've got to make some adjustments to where our axle is in correlation to the body. Going up, maybe. Only one side wants to go up. You know what? We can work with that. All right. I think we can work with that. The shackle needs a bit of adjustment. I can take care of it for you. It'll cost you though. Get in there. What the hell was that? Hope that wasn't anything important. You know, like my safety. Sit rep. So this spring perch here, or shock perch, shock pad, spring pad, whatever you want to call it, ties everything together on the axle. The shock mounts right here. When I took the old one off, the bushing stayed on here. That's because the metal portion seized. And this rubber that is on that metal portion is so crappy I can't get it off. I cut it, pulled as much as I could off with a pair of channel locks. So now I'm burning it off, and at the same time heating up that old metal bushing insert, hoping that will free it and get it to slide off so we can put this on the truck and attach the new shock absorber to it. Ugh, that stinks. It's just kind of coming off there, I guess. Nothing can ever just be simple, can it? Sure. Oh, it's doing something. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what we needed. Some more squeeze and some more leverage. All right, back under here after that bit of a fiasco. I cleaned up that stud with the Brillo pad. I'm gonna damn sure put some anti-seize on this because that sucked. Now, slide that through the shock absorber. And the shock uses the big old washer. Again, just hand tight. Now let's see. Okay, so in this instance, we can go ahead and cut this strap because it's not out far enough for me to get this in place anyway. Here goes. See? Whoop. Now that shock is fully extended and it's a little bit further out than I need it to be. Luckily, they got a little bit of give in them so I can work with it. Chuck my U-bolts back up over the axle. Now, I'm not going to snug these up all the way, but I do want this a little bit closer to the leaf spring. So, a little bit of this. Now I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll be ready to take the last steps to getting the truck ready to tighten all this stuff down for the last time. Now that everything is loosely back in place, I'm going to jack the truck up by the rear diff there, get the weight off those jack stands and get those jack stands out from underneath the frame. Then we'll set the truck back down on these jack stands on the axle. You can also set it back down on the ground if you like. Doesn't matter either way as long as the suspension is carrying the weight of the vehicle. Then we'll tighten everything up, starting with the U-bolts on the spring pad, then the shock absorbers. Then I'll go to the front, tighten those bolts up on the front, come back here, tighten up the shackle bolts to the frame, and then lastly I'll hit these leaf spring 2 shackle bolts there, and the rear end will be in and secure. The truck is sitting level on the jack stands. This ought to be good. Now that I've got everything tight, we're going to jack it up real quick, get it off the jack stands, and set this old girl on the ground. Ooh. There it is. Kind of hard to tell in the garage. Let's make a change. Carolina called. They want their squat back. Well, I'm going to let them have it. But first, I know these are brand new springs. They're 3-inch drop springs, and they might settle in just a little bit more and get a little bit lower. But I already know that I want more lower. So today I went out and I bought these. These are a set of 2-inch lowering blocks with shims and a set of longer U-bolts. The way this works is our truck is set with the axle on top of the leaf spring. The leaf spring is the permanent fixture that controls the ride height of the vehicle. So if we put these blocks between the leaf spring and the axle, it effectively makes the axle sit up higher on the leaf springs and closer to the body of the truck, making the truck overall sit lower to the ground. When you do that, you're extending the length between the top of the axle and the spring perch on the bottom where the shock goes, and the axle bolts all together, so you need a longer U-bolt to make sure you can, you know, still tighten it all up together with a larger gap. Get the truck back up in the air and I'll show you what I'm on about. All right, so I got the truck up on jack stands right now. The jack stand is under the frame rail. We've got our suspension at full droop, and you can see right now that is our gap between the tire and the fender well. We crawl under here, and I've already broken that spring perch loose. Hanging on there by the shock absorber. I'm gonna lift the rear end up to separate the rear end from the spring there. So now we've got that gap exposed here, and that is the area where we're going to put our block at. The shim plate is going to tilt the axle forward 2 degrees, because the closer it gets to the truck, the more it straightens out the drive shaft, and that can throw off your pinion angle. Your pinion angle is off, it starts wearing out stuff, and you get, you know, not happy times with your rear end. So there's a locating pin on the middle of that spring. We'll put that on there. Then we put this on top of that. Get it on the locating pin, and then we can just lower the axle back down. There's a locating pin on top of the block. Hopefully, nope, it's not going to slide right in. We'll have to shuffle some things around. Look, there it goes. Put our axle back down onto the spring, and there's our gap now with the suspension at full droop. What a difference. This thing's going to be sitting low in the back. So now all I got to do is take my new longer U-bolts, put them back over the axle, put all this stuff back together like it was before. There's going to be a lot of excess on these bolts off, so once you get it tightened up, you can cut the ends off of it to have them as long as you need them to be. All right, there it is, loosely assembled. I'm not going to tighten that all the way down just yet because I've still got to do the other side. So I've got to lift the axle up again once it gets that side broken down. And then before I tighten it all down, I want to make sure the axle's centered and everything's lined up like it should be. At this point right here, you want to come in and lob off these excess bits of the U-bolt, because a deep socket won't hit that. And if you can't lob it off, well, have fun turning that with a 19mm open-end wrench. All right, everything's tightened back up, ready to come down. Let's bring Little Green back down to earth. Holy cow. Look at how much compression it has before it starts to lift the truck. I wonder if it's sitting on the bump stop now. Yep, we are close to the bump stop on this side, and I look like I'm hitting the bump stop on the passenger side. Whoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oh man. Boy, that thing is sitting tucked. Let's get this thing out here once we get some daylight and see just how real the old Carolina squat is. I suddenly feel like I need to go to Sonic and hang out and blast Morgan Wallen in the parking lot. But we're not going to do that. Instead, in the next video, we're going to drop the front end down to where the back end is, get that stuff set up, and then we'll put the cherry on top. Remember, sometimes, guys, you got to do things the hard way.